As much as I would love to tell you that I love all of my journal children equally, my reading journal is definitely my favourite in my lineup. Let's set up all of the new journal spreads at the beginning of my 2026 reading journal. This will actually be my 6th reading journal, and I've learned a lot about how I like to do it along the way, so I'm going to be sharing all of my insights and wisdom with you too. Hi, I'm Erin, and I really love a good story. And the book that's going to be housing the story of my reading in 2026 is this gorgeous B5 notebook from Tiefossi. This is their leaf and texture journal in navy. I really like to go a little bit bigger on my reading journal, but I keep my other journals a little bit smaller. I'll decorate this nameplate spread in a members only live stream soon, but for now we're going to turn over to the first page that's going to be my cover page. I had another members only live stream recently where my members helped me come up with the theme for this setup, and what we landed on is this green and beige, somewhat fantastical theme, inspired originally by Rivendell from Lord of the Rings, although I think it has expanded in the process of setting it up to be kind of just broadly fantasy. Stories about magic and romance and fairy tale worlds are some of my favourites, so it feels very fitting to have that kind of theme setting the tone of the journal that's going to house all of my reading over a whole year. I'm really curious, what are your favourite kinds of stories to read? Because I'm guessing if you're here watching this, you love a good story too. And if you love a good story, you'll also love June's Journey, my favourite mobile game and today's video sponsor. When you play June's Journey, you're transported to a glamorous 1920s Art Deco world, hunting hidden objects and solving mysteries as June Parker, amateur detective. It's like falling into a cozy mystery book. With each chapter, you unravel the story of June's murdered sister Claire, finding clues and chasing leads and unlocking new scenes, extra features, and special events that keep the excitement coming. You also get to build and decorate your own island. I'm currently working on turning mine into an autumn wonderland so I can live in denial about Brisbane's sweltering summer temperatures. But the best part to me is the hidden object scenes. They're so immersive, the music really puts you in the zone, the artwork is beautiful, and you get to be part of the story through June. Plus there's almost always a cat in the scene, which just makes me so happy. I love the sense of achievement that comes from mastering a level and unlocking a new chapter of the story. You can pretty much guarantee if I'm importing my giant video files or exporting a video, I am playing June's Journey while that happens. Download June's Journey for free by clicking on the link in the description or scanning this QR code. June's Journey is available on iOS and Android smartphones and tablets and on PC. Back to my cover spread. This is not something I went into with much of a plan. I really just wanted to experiment with the elements I thought I might use throughout the rest of the setup and see how they work together. I'm using what I call my letterbox technique, which is where I focus the decoration on the top and bottom of the page, leaving that center space empty so I can put my lettering there that really defines what the journal is, just in case I'm looking back at this in 25 years' time and I don't remember, which could happen. I've been hoarding this washi tape, this beautiful medieval city tape from Cora Career Crafts for about a year now, so I was glad to finally find the place to use it, although I don't know if I love the way this whole cover page is going to turn out. It's not my favourite thing I've ever done, but do you know what? I almost never come back to the cover spread or the cover page in my reading journal. It's all about the pages that come after this, so I've decided to just be okay with not being obsessed with it, because I'll probably just forget anyway. If you see any stationery in this video that catches your eye and you think I would love to have that in my collection, I have linked to everything I can possibly link to down in the description. Some of this stuff is no longer available, unfortunately, but wherever I can link to things for you, I will. This tape is actually really difficult to peel up off its roll because it can be really easy to tear because of the shape of the top of the tape, the way it's cut around all of the pictures of buildings. It requires a very delicate hand, but we've managed it. I haven't destroyed anything yet. And before I go any further, I wanted to make sure I had plenty of room for the lettering for my title page here. So I've grabbed my pencil and I'm just going to pencil out my text before I jump in there with a marker, because it's been a while since I've done any really nice lettering in my journals. I've kind of been favouring making titles with my Cricut or using stamps, so this needed a little bit of preparation, but I think it's going to turn out pretty cute. If you really want to make sure your headers are somewhat centered, I recommend that you write down the word or just count the letters in your head and work out which letter is going to be the center of that word, and start with penciling out that letter first and then move forwards and backwards from there. If you're doing that in pencil, then you have the flexibility to erase things and change up your spacing before you jump in with your pen and make it all permanent. But if you dive in straight away with your pen and you haven't worked out your spacing correctly, things can end up looking a little wonky, which is not the end of the world. But if you do really like things to be even, definitely pencil first, start with the middle letter. This is a Pentel brush sign pen in case you were wondering, and they are my favorites to do this kind of modern calligraphy with. I love them. Now that I know where all the important elements on my page need to go and they're already in place, I can get back to decorating. This incredible window PET tape is from Leela Journals. The lovely Art Deco sort of style leafy frames I originally got from JOURNALSAY, but they don't have them listed anymore, I'm sorry. I can't find them anywhere else on the internet, which is really disappointing. And that lovely tree and gothic window frame kind of sticker in the middle there is from Sterling Ink. These stamps I have been waiting to use in my reading journal setup since I got them in like April or May. They're from Lord of Maps, and I think they're supposed to be designed to help you make your own fantasy maps very easily. Of course, that would be wonderful for people who play D&D or who are writing a fantasy novel or just enjoy making their own maps because it's fun. I'm using them almost in the way that I would usually use sparkles in my journal, just to fill in a little bit of extra space in a way that's not too heavy. And I've ended up with a lot more beige going on in this page than I originally really wanted. I kind of wanted the green to be the focus, and I don't have much of that, so I'm trying to bring it back with this green paint marker. This one's from a set from JOURNALSAY. I love using paint markers with my stamps because you don't get any of that corner transfer that you sometimes get on the corners of your stamps from an ink pad. And you don't have to have 100 different ink pads in different colors to get all of the colors that you might need. If you have 1 or 2 sets of paint markers, you'll probably have a pretty good range of colors already. So that's my favorite thing about paint markers with stamps. I kind of wanted it to feel like you were looking out a window at the mountains in this kind of abstract way, so I've positioned them behind the frame stickers. And I'm just finessing the placement of these stickers so that everything sits exactly where I want them. There's still not quite enough green here for me though, so I'm adding some tape down the bottom here. This one's a PET tape from Notebook Therapy. It came with the Secret Garden Traveler's Notebook set, and there's also a wider one that's similar that came in the set too. I am going to be relying on those heavily to get my green representation down on my pages all the way throughout this setup. I'm feeling a lot better about the amount of green on the page, but I still feel like I have these chunks of brown at the top and bottom, so I'm adding in some ivy stickers. These ones are on a sticker sheet I've had for quite a while from Robin Haley, just extending that green a little bit further into the corners, and that's it for the cover page. Not my favorite, but it'll do. Our next spread is focused on the books that I read over the course of the year, and in the past I've always done this just as a list, a very straightforward kind of number, title, author system. And I've done that in every reading journal I've had so far. It definitely works. It's the easiest and most straightforward approach, but I want to try something different in 2026. And I love a tiny book cover, and I love printing them for myself. I do it for my monthly setups anyway, so why not add the book covers instead of just making a list this time? So I've decided how big I want them to be. I'm actually scaling them down a touch from the sizes that I have been making them in the past. I have a video about how I make my book cover stickers with my Cricut and just printer paper, my home printer. I was making them 3.75 centimeters on the taller edge, which is great. It's a good size for putting in journals, definitely, but it's a little in between the dot grid spaces in this notebook, in any notebook really. They're usually 5 millimeters apart, so instead I'm just making them 3.5 going forward. Book cover dimensions do sometimes vary, so I like to just make the tall side the same every time and let them be whatever width that makes them based on the design. So the boxes I'm drawing out here may not be the perfect fit for some books. Some of them might be narrower, some of them might be slightly wider, but I think the overall effect will be the same, so that's totally fine. In the past, I didn't include this information on my overview list of book spreads, but I thought it would be interesting to have the star rating for each book on this page as well. So out comes the star rating stamp. I managed to do the first one upside down, which is really frustrating. And I am using an ink pad for this one just because it's more efficient for stamping many star ratings because I have to do all of them. I can fit 16 book covers on a page or 32 on a spread here, so it's just more efficient to use the ink pad, and the VersaFine ink pads are really good. I've also chosen to cut off part of the right side of the right page just because, well, actually you'll see in a moment why I've decided to do that. It's a very, very tiny Dutch door that's only going to show a little bit of the pages that are underneath. And I'm lining the very edge of it with a thin green washi just so it's really easy to see where that edge is, so it doesn't blend in with what's underneath it. I'm also going to add some washi tape to the left side of the left page too, just so that it's nice and pretty, because that's going to be the basis for something that we will do later. So mysterious. This beautiful script washi tape is from Paper Monogatari. It is one of the most used pieces of stationery in my entire collection. It just goes so well with so many things. It can go academia, it can go fantasy, it can go very romantic, it can be a love letter, it can be so many things. And because the text on it is quite small, it sort of just acts more as a textural element rather than being something that your eye is drawn to and wants to read. It's so good. Typically, I read more than 32 books in a year, so we're actually going to do all of that again. I didn't want to put you through it though, because it's the exact same thing. And guess what? We're going to do it again, a third time, because I don't know how many books I'll read in 2026. As at the beginning of November, I've read 57 books in 2025. In 2024, I read 96, so I just wanted to bake in some flexibility, but I'm not sure I'll get to 96 again. That was hard. Now that those pages are set up, I've moved on to tabs. This is something I did in my journal for 2025 and loved it. It made navigating between these first pages so easy, and I do flip between these ones really often, so being able to find my way around easily with the tabs was really, really helpful. I have a whole video on my channel that's just about how to add tabs to your journal, so if you're keen to find out how to do it, I will link to that one up here in the corner and down in the video description too. So I won't go into it too much in this video, but suffice to say there's some mathematics involved, and you do have to remove some of the paper from your journal in order to make it work as well, but it's worth it, I promise, and it's not as difficult as it might seem. It is something that you need to know how many pages you're going to be using before you start though, so I like to go through and pencil everything out ahead of time so I really know what I'm going to be working with. And if you are removing any paper from your journal pages, whether that's for tabs or Dutch doors or something else, I do recommend some long bladed scissors, because if you're doing this with tiny little embroidery scissors like I use for everything else in my journal, oh man, your cuts won't be very straight and it will be frustrating and take a bit longer. So I like to keep these ones on hand expressly for this purpose. Smaller journals, maybe not so much of an issue, but this one's B5, it's a big boy. If you were using a B5 or a square, definitely keep those long bladed scissors around for this kind of thing. I'm actually just going to cut my tabs into some awkward kind of little boxes to start with, and I'll finesse them later. So I'm just making sure I know where they're going and cutting off the extra paper, and then I'll make them pretty later. Since I'm here with my scissors already, the next spread we're going to work on has a Dutch door involved, so I'm just going to go ahead and chop that extra paper off as well. This will sit before the tabs for most of them, but I was already cutting paper out of the journal, so I thought I'll just do it while I'm here. See how those tabs are starting to come together over on the right side? They're not done yet by any means, but we're going to leave them there for now. I'm adding some washi tape to decorate the right side of the last of my books I've read in the year pages. I'm using the same one I used on the first one of those, so it kind of mirrors that design. You'll see it because of the Dutch doors. Actually, this is not just the same washi tape, it's the same piece. I just used the bit that I cut off that first page. Waste not, right? I figure once all the book covers are down on those pages, there's going to be a lot going on. Lots of colors, lots of different text styles, lots of images, so I've kept the decoration for those spreads really minimal on purpose. Literally just the tape that's down the edge of the page, whether that's the Dutch door or the bit underneath it that you can see, that little bit of green down the bottom on the previous two pages. We haven't done that one on this one yet, but we will. We'll add it there so they all match. And that's it. Nothing else. With my tabs, currently they are kind of 2 dot grid spaces wide. I'm just cutting them down a little bit so that they sit inside the page edge of the book, so they're nice and protected when the book is closed. I thought I'd do them all at once so I can line them up, and of course we need to add a little bit of ivy at the bottom of this spread, and then these pages are all done. Of course, I have to get them approved by my supervisor before I can move on. You can see his little feet entering the frame here. This is Mitsu, my sweet little boy. Come to ask for his lunch, please. Now we can turn the page and move on to my Page Majors spread. This is for my book club. In case you aren't familiar, YouTube has a thing built in that creators can use that's basically like Patreon, except it's all on YouTube already, and I have one of those. And one of the perks for the highest tier of that is my book club, which is called Page Majors, which is the same name as the tier. All of it operates on Discord, so if you're a Page Majors level channel member and you're not in the Discord, you should get in there. The members of the book club submit suggestions for books, and I go through them, and we have a poll every month to choose one out of a selection that have been suggested. We choose the books kind of 6 weeks in advance of the month we're going to read them in, so everyone's got time to source a copy for themselves. And then every month we read a book together. We have a dedicated channel over in the Discord server where we talk about the book, and at the end of the month, anyone who can make it has a little in-person chat. We have some discussion questions around the book that we use to guide the discussion, and some people join in on video or just voice or just in the text chat, and we just have the best time talking about the book together. Sometimes we love it, sometimes we hate it, sometimes we have mixed opinions, but it is always a great time. If you're keen to join in and you're watching this video pretty soon after it goes live, we're still working on the 2025 book, so we're reading a book called This Monster of Mine for November. It's by Shalini Abesekara. And our December book is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. So you can still join in on either of those if you're keen to get involved. You do have to be a Page Majors level channel member to access those parts of the Discord and the chat and everything. So you can find out information about joining the channel down in the description. There's a join button kind of close to the subscribe button down below. And there's also a QR code on the screen in case you're watching on a TV or something too. And I love having a spread dedicated to this book club in my journal so I can just really highlight what the books were that were chosen for each month. I had a spread similar to this in my previous journal, but it didn't quite work the way I decided that I needed it to. I wasn't sure at the time I set it up how I was going to use it exactly besides putting a big book cover in each space. And then I decorated it a little bit too much, so in practice as I used it throughout the year, I didn't really have space for anything but the big book covers, and I want to make sure I'm also recording who suggested each book. So this time, instead of just a single spread, although my previous journal was huge, it was this big 9x9 inch square journal, I had space for big book covers to fit them all on a single spread. This time I'm doing 2 spreads with the Dutch door, so I can do 6 months on the first half and 6 months on the second half. Also, the brown highlight that's underneath each month, obviously I've got the name of the month, the first 3 letters for each one, but the space underneath that is going to be the dedicated space to write who suggested each book. That leaves me with a little bit more room to play as far as decoration, but I'm still going to be a little bit sparing on it because I know the book covers are going to go in the spaces that I've left, of course, but I don't mind having some of my decoration disappear behind them, but I don't want anything too important to get lost. I figure as the year progresses, if I find that I'm craving more decoration on these spreads, I can just add it and it will be fine, rather than trying to remove things if I've gone too hard. The second half of this spread after the Dutch door will be exactly the same concept, it will just cover from July through to December instead. One thing I haven't done with this spread yet, even though we've talked about it, is write on it somewhere what it is for, so I'm just jumping back in with my little Pentel brush sign pen and adding Page Majors Book Club anywhere there is space. When you're cutting Dutch doors into your journal, a way to make them look really deliberate is just to punch the corners of them with one of these little corner rounding tools, and that makes it look very deliberate, almost like the journal just came this way and you never removed paper from it at all. It was always supposed to be like that. My Page Majors Book Club spreads are complete now, so we're going to turn the page and move on to one that always gives me trouble. This is my series tracker. When you have a long series, it's really helpful to have a page like this to refer back to, but it's really difficult to work out the right way to set them up because all book series have different numbers of books in them. Sometimes they'll have like 3 or 4, sometimes they'll have like 27. I really didn't like the way I set up my series tracker in my previous journal for 2025, so I know I want to do something different this time, but I also haven't totally nailed down what that is yet, so I'm dedicating the spread to it and I'm adding a little bit of decoration in the top left and bottom right corners here, but I don't think I'm going to be setting up any actual series tracking functional things yet. I need to think about this a little bit longer first. So I thought I'd ask you, actually, do you have a series tracker that you find really works for you? In my previous reading journals, not my 2025 one, but the ones before that, I had a series tracker that kind of worked, but I didn't like it enough to stick with it, and then I tried something different for 2025 and I liked that even less, so I'm very much on the lookout and I'd love your suggestions. I'm willing to go back to the way I did it in 2023 and 2024 if I need to, but I just haven't been able to find that much inspiration for this out there that's different. I keep seeing sort of the same things over and over again, so I would love to hear your thoughts. For now, this is just going to be a lightly decorated but mostly empty spread. It is going to offer me the chance to use some of my stickers that I haven't got to try out anywhere else yet though. I have some really cute ones from Sticky. The Leela Journal's wallpaper washi tape, wide washi tape at the back there, is making its first appearance, which is great because I love that tape. I've used it a few times before, but it's just spectacular. And of course, I want to get some more of my mountain stamps down here too for some consistency. Funnily enough, this series tracker spread is looking a lot more like what I had in my head, the vision for this theme, rather than my cover spread, but it took me a minute to get there and I eventually worked it out. Let's move on to what has been one of my most enjoyed spreads in my 2025 journal, so I really wanted to bring it forward into 2026. This one's going to be a book bingo. I had 2 of these actually in my current journal. At the time that you're watching this, it will still be my current journal. Actually, I don't know when you're watching this. It could not be my current journal anymore. At the time I'm releasing this video, it's my current journal. Hello, time traveler, if that's no longer the case. Anyway, in my 2025 journal, I have 2 bingo boards. One is just a romance tropes bingo, and the other one is a genre bingo. I have enjoyed the genre bingo a little bit more, and I also haven't finished it, but I like the idea of pushing myself to read a little bit more widely, so I'm bringing that forward into my 2026 journal too. So it's still a genre bingo, but it's actually a little bit different to the one I have in my 2025 journal. Still a little bit of genre crossover, but I'm introducing some new ones and I'm retiring some of the others too. I made my bingo board so each of the boxes are 5 dot grid spaces tall and 5 dot grid spaces wide, so they're nice and big. I can put lots of information in there. But one of my biggest drawbacks for my bingo boards in my 2025 journal is that I didn't really have anywhere to write down the titles for the books that I was applying to those bingo boards. I used some extra space that I had left over, but it really wasn't enough room, especially because I smushed 2 bingo boards onto a single page somehow. So that has informed the way I'm doing this bingo board spread. So the left page is the bingo board, but the right page is where I'm going to add all the extra information. So each of the bingo board spaces will have a number, and then on the right page I'll add second line highlights to denote a kind of working space, and I'll write down the title of the book that corresponds to which number bingo board square. So both of those pages will work together. And I think that's going to be really fun, really fulfilling. It also means I have a decent amount of space left over here for some decoration, so I'm bringing back my Medieval City washi tape, which is just so gorgeous. I'm pairing it up with a bit of paper that I have robbed from a William Morris 2025 calendar. I actually used quite a bit of that in my 2025 journal too. And some more of this gorgeous notebook therapy tape along the top here. This is the wider one from the Secret Garden Traveler's Notebook set. The little bit of gold foil on the outlines there, just so gorgeous. And I really like the pop of purple that it brings into. It's really nice. This is the same Tombow I used for the little bit of highlight on the Page Majors spread. It's the 992, which I think is called Sand. It is such a nice neutral, it's really lovely, and because of the size I made my bingo board with every square being 5 dot grid spaces tall, I need 25 lines on the right page here to record all of the books that will correspond to the squares, except for the 13th, because that's going to be the middle square and that's going to have a stamp in it just as a free square, but it means that my writing space on the right side is the exact same height as the bingo board, and that is so satisfying. If you also want to include a book bingo in your journal but you're not sure what prompts you should put into it, just have a little Google. So many people have done wonderful lists of suggestions or shared pictures of their own bingo boards. You can buy some on Etsy as printables and that kind of thing too, so there are so many options, but the ones I'm including in my journal, since this is a book genre bingo, are mystery, dystopian, contemporary romance, young adult, historical fiction, a classic published before 1970, fantasy, obviously I have to have some easy ones in there, non-fiction, literary fiction, graphic novel, translated, local author, magical realism, memoir or biography, horror, mythology or folklore, a book published in 1987 because that's the year I was born, science fiction, contemporary fiction, middle grade, a collection of short stories, a book that was indie published, a retelling, and cozy mystery. And once we've got all of those prompts down in the bingo squares and erased all of the pencil lines, I'll pop a stamp in the center square as well, just so it's really obvious that that's a free space. I've also added a number in the bottom left-hand corner of every bingo square that will correspond to the numbers going down the left side of my right page second line highlights here. So that's where I'm going to write the title and probably author of the books that correspond to the bingo prompts. Those funky kind of dice stamps that I've been using a little bit throughout here are also from that notebook therapy set, the same one. It's a little bit too big for the space. Actually, I probably could have put a few of my mountain stamps there instead and it would have worked a little better, but hey, it's done, so it's fine. Let's carry on to the next spread since this one is finished. This page is going to have a similar concept to the Page Majors spread from earlier, where it will be one book cover representing each month, but instead of it being a book club reads page, this one is for my favorite book that I read every month. I go back and forth on whether or not I want to do a book bracket or not, because I don't feel like it's the most accurate representation of a favorite read of the whole year. But I do think it's just fun to have something like this, so rather than a book bracket, I'm just going to celebrate the books on a single page like this, just small book covers this time. I decided not to include the star rating stamp because I usually have to round my ratings up or down a little bit to fit into like a quarter star rating system. I rate my books to the Peach book rating method, which is one that I came up with at the end of last year. It works really well for me. I rate my books against 5 criteria and add the scores together, and that gives me my star rating. I have a video about it in case you want to check it out. It's based on the Corpile method, but it's a little bit more straightforward. So rather than including the star rating, I thought it would be more accurate to include my Peach rating for each of these books. I'll just write it next to the book covers probably, or just above. It typically comes out something like 4.8 maybe would be a really high rating. Or say I rated a book 4.3 on my Peach system, I would probably put that in a star rating as 4.25 because that's just a bit cleaner. So including a star rating stamp here didn't really make sense to me because these are all going to be highly rated books, hopefully. I mean, it's possible I'll just have a really bad reading month and there might be something lower in there, but it's still just interesting to look back on. The facing page though doesn't have a purpose yet. I'm going to lightly decorate it like we did for the series tracker, so it has some pretty stuff down there, it's ready to go, but I don't totally know what I'm going to use it for yet. Something I've learned about myself is that early in a new year, I think of all these things I want to do with my journal, and if I didn't bake in some flexibility, I don't have anywhere to put them. So this is the thing that I am doing for myself now, is just leaving some room to add more stuff if I want to. Like, what if I join another book club? And I want to have space to track all of their books. I can put it wherever. In a dot journal, you can put it anywhere. I could put it at the back of the book. I could just put it in the month when I joined. That would be okay too. But having that flexibility to add it to the start can sometimes be really satisfying. So I'm trying to make sure I allow myself that. Funnily enough, our next page is one that I added later in my current journal in 2025, and that is a did not finish or DNF page. It has taken me a while to come around to being someone who just doesn't finish a book that they're not enjoying. I have definitely pushed through some books that I didn't love in the past. I'm not really doing that anymore. Life's too short to read books you're not enjoying. So I am now keeping track of the books I don't finish, although it's still pretty low. I think there are only a handful so far for 2025. I've gone with a second line highlight page division kind of system, so I've got space here for 9 books that I choose not to finish. I don't think I'll need that many if it's anything like my 2025 stats, but we'll see. And once again, the page on the right is going to be an empty space that I can use maybe for overflow if I do need more room for my did not finish page, or for something else. As far as practical use, I'm not sure if I'll pop down just the title of the book that I don't finish, or if I'll put the book cover there, because often I print them when I've got library holds that have come through or something. I'll print them before I've read the book, so if I have the book cover, I might as well use it. I also like to add what percentage or page or chapter of the book I made it to when I decided that I wasn't going to continue, and just a few words about why I've decided not to continue, just in case I forget. One thing I'm not including this time that I have had in all of my reading journals so far is a bookshelf tracker. So if I decide that that's something that I'd like to include, maybe I'll come back and put it here on this empty page. I typically use it as a goals tool as well. So I'll say, if I want to read 60 books, I'll have space to put 60 books on the shelves. But I don't know if I'm going to set a reading goal for 2026. I haven't decided yet, so that's another thing that's still kind of cooking away in my mind, whether or not I want to include something like that. For now though, I will gently decorate, and when the time comes, this page will get to have its moment. This next page is going to be the last functional page that we set up together in this video, and this is for what I call my maybe next, but most people refer to as their TBR or to be read. I don't love that name personally. I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on being like, this is a thing I must read, whereas I very much see reading as a fun hobby thing that I do in my free time. I don't want to put pressure on it, so these are just books that have caught my eye. I'm also not really a physical book reader, so it's not like I have a bunch of books in my house that I've bought that are waiting for me to get to them, which I imagine is not the case for a lot of people. Most people do have that situation, so maybe next is just a bit more chill because I'm sourcing my next book typically from the library on ebook or audio. So I have had maybe next spreads in my journals before, and I even sort of themed them into genres at one point, but I'm changing it up for this year. I'm going with more of a table, and that's in order to facilitate a new column for data that I'm tracking, and that is who the book is recommended by. I get so many excellent book recommendations from you in the comments of my videos, and I'd like to make sure I'm keeping track of who's recommending the books to me so I can thank them if I read them and have a great time. Likewise, from my channel members over in Discord, we have a whole channel that's just for reading recommendations, so I get some of my suggestions from there as well. Of course, I have some in real life friends that I get book recommendations from too, and also from some creators I follow whose opinions I trust. So this way I'll be able to keep track of all of those avenues and really see where my favorites came from, where they were recommended to me, and who the most reliable sources are, maybe, as a side effect. I'm actually leaving the right page completely blank because I have a feeling this will be overflow from my maybe next, and I don't want to fill in any space with decoration because I'll need quite a bit of room for another one of those tables, but I don't know for sure yet. So we're just going to leave it there for now and finally go back and finish these tabs. I wanted to make them that trapezoid kind of shape that tabs usually are, so I'm just using small scissors this time to nip the edges off. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I'm not being too precise here. It's a little bit less than 1 dot grid space, so a little bit less than 5mm that I'm taking off each time, but I'm kind of just trying to match the size of the triangle that I chop off rather than anything too precise. And while those long-bladed scissors were great for Dutch doors and cutting the tabs out in the first place, I think these smaller scissors are really coming in clutch here. They're going to do a great job of cutting the tabs in a really precise way, where the big scissors might be a bit too big for this kind of thing, a bit too clumsy. Now, these tabs are very much functional, but I also want them to be a little bit pretty, so I'm putting one of the offcuts of my bits of paper from earlier behind and just colouring them in with my same Tombos that I've used somewhat throughout. I'm going to alternate between my very favourite green, the 192 asparagus, and also that 992 sand that we used for all of the other second line highlights. Just trying to do these in somewhat batches, so I'm doing all of the greens first and then we'll do all of the browns, moving forward and then moving backward through the journal. And if you're really concerned about straight lines here, you could use some washi tape to mask off the edge that's going to touch the part of the page that stays. Or you could use another of your paper offcuts to cover that area so your marker doesn't touch anywhere you don't want it to, but I was not feeling that perfectionist pull to make these ones exactly perfect, so just kind of drawing the line as straight as I can is enough for me. The tabs are all coloured in and they're looking pretty good. I do plan to label them, but first I want to add some washi tape that sits on the page that's all the way at the back of the tabs. You'll see a little bit of this peeking around the corner when you have the tabs all pushed to the right side. And I've gone with that lovely wallpaper washi tape from Leela Journals, but I, again, don't know what I'm going to be using this page for. It's another bit of flexibility built in. So rather than taking up the whole space with the full width of the washi tape, I'm tearing it in half and moving the other half to the other side of the spread. So we've got this kind of vertical columns decoration going on, ready for whatever the end result is. I think if I do make a bookshelf tracker, it'll probably go there. Now let's make some labels for these tabs. I think it would be really nice to print them on some kind of clear paper, and I probably could have done that with my little Fomemo MO2 mini printer, but I just wanted to get it done, so I'm jumping in just with my trusty Pigma Micron pen and just lettering it in capital letters, and I think that will do. On the spreads where I have some space left over that I don't know how to use yet, I'm just using some abbreviations for the existing purpose. Like this one I'll put BOM for Book of the Month and leave some room so I can add whatever the other purpose ends up being. And once all of these are labelled on the front, we'll flip the journal around and label them on the back too. I'm fairly confident this maybe next page will just end up being overflow, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover the whole tab with that text because I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. If you're really keen to see what all of these pages end up being in their final forms, you'll have to stick around on the channel throughout the next year and watch my reading journal videos. I post one at the beginning of every month. We use these pages in those videos, we update them together. We also set up some monthly tracking pages that look at what I've been reading from one month to the next, as well as book reviews for every single book that I read. So if you're looking for recommendations, maybe I can be that person for you. So if you'd like some book recommendations from me, please consider hitting subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. I'd love to have you join my little journaling reading family. As one last finishing touch, I'm just punching the corners of all of my cut pages, the ones that don't have tabs at the top and bottom, with my little corner rounding tool. No paper cuts here, no siree. I've got some washi tape corners that are quite sharp on my cover page too, so let's do those as well. And to get the full effect of all of the pages we've just set up, let's have a flip through from start to finish. This reading journal and I are going to have so many adventures together in 2026, and I can't wait to take you with me for the ride. If you're setting up your own reading journal for 2026 soon, I hope you could take some inspiration from this video for your own journal. Let me know if you have a particular journal in mind already, or even if it's just the size that you plan to use. I think it would be so interesting to hear what everyone has planned for their lineup. And I hope that the year ahead brings you so many wonderful books that you never expected to fall in love with, and stories that stay with you forever. Speaking of stories, don't forget that you can become part of the story when you download June's Journey for free today at my link in the description. New journal season is officially upon us, and I have a few more still to come, as well as flip-throughs of all of my completed journals from 2025, so stay tuned to the channel for all of that good stuff. But if you're keen to keep watching right now, here is a link to a playlist of all of my reading journal videos from 2025, as well as a video all about how to start your first reading journal and make sure it's one you'll actually keep up with.